Well, time is no longer on our side and neither is the weather. It has been raining for days and I only have a short window left before we leave on this trip. Now, mechanically, the truck is sound. I took it for a test drive, the alternator went, I fixed that, took it for another test drive, and all is good. But there's a couple things that I want to do in the looks department. When I first got this truck, it had a cab visor. Then the water pump went, and on the tow back home, I don't know, it off the roof. So I got a new cab visor. We're going to paint that, put it on. Now, with it being just not raining at the moment, it's going to take a while for that to dry. So we're going to be bouncing around between that and the dually fender. The dually fender on the passenger side is attached, and we're going to try to make that a little bit better. I got an idea on how to make that happen, but it's to be determined if that's how we go. So with all of that, let's get started. We're going to start with the visor and then bounce between that and the fender. Well, as it starts to sprinkle, welcome to the top of my vehicle. This is something that doesn't get seen very often. Usually we're underneath it, but here's what we got working with us. Couple of the holes got the screws ripped out when the old visor broke off, and then there's still pieces of the old fiberglass that we need to do. What my plan is, weather permitting, we take all these screws out, we hammer the old holes flush, take the welder and plug them up, and then we'll fit the new visor in, see where we're going to need to drill the new holes for the new sheet metal screws to go in. That's the plan. Let's get to it before this rain gets any worse. All right, let's start removing these old screws. Some of them are still really well dug in. Others not so much. I really hate drilling holes in the sheet metal. It just introduces leaks, and that is not something that you want to have happen. Matter of fact, I think the reason why the A-post on that side rotted out was because of some of these holes, and it could explain some of the rust that we've seen elsewhere. All right, that is all of them for this side. Let's go knock out that other side. Okay, now that we have all the screws out, I'm going to go flatten these down a little bit, clean off some of the silicone. A couple of these I'm going to have to hammer because when this pulled up, it lifted the metal. So let's do that real quick and then see about fitting this new visor in. Oh, that's going to have a lot of silicone I'm going to have to cut out. All right, let's go get the visor, see how that looks. Okay. Okay, this sits nicely here. And of course, it's not going to want to stay. Simple fact is there is a lot of side-to-side play, so we should be good. Let's go set this back down, and we can start cleaning up the metal. All right, let's clean this up a little bit so we have something good to weld to, close up these holes. Whew, that humidity is it's just dripping off of me. Now I know all you paint and body guys out there are going, well, what is he doing? Well, I know I'm doing this the wrong way, but I don't have the time to do it the right way, and I'm sure with how much I like this truck, we'll be here again doing it the right way and, you know, taking care of the truck. Normally you'd pull the windshield out, and I'm sure the inside of these channels are all rusted out. But it's outside, it's raining, and I need to get this sealed up and done. So let's get the welder out. Let's plug weld these holes, come out with the grinder, grind the weld smooth again, and then we can get started on painting that, which will take a year with all this humidity to dry. Now to, you know, bump up the sketch level, I'm going to weld in the rain on an aluminum ladder that's sitting in a puddle. Don't do any of this. Do this in a garage. I wish I had a garage that would fit this truck. I don't. I have a rainy day. I also don't have a ground, so let's see how badly that works. It's either going to work or it's not. All right. Well, let's see how this works. Oh dear. Is everything supposed to be covered in condensation? Just asking for a friend. How about a screw? Let's... There, with a better ground, that's welding much better. Let me grind this one. We'll redo that one, do this one. This is where good enough will have to come into place. Let me clean this up a little bit. We'll move on to the next set of holes. All right, so those three spots are low spots now. If I was doing this, I would mess with it a little bit more to bring it up, but they're sealed, which is the big point of what we're doing. Let's move on to one of these other holes, which are going to be harder because it's literally a stretch. But let's see if I can close up that one. Nothing that's making this harder than it has to be is there's rust. And if you've ever tried to weld a rusted panel, well, it just kind of blows out and the hole gets bigger and bigger until you get the good metal, and then you can close it out. So with all of that, let me work on this next hole, which I think will be this one, and then we'll move to the other side. That hole got considerably bigger before I was able to close it up. All right, now that we're set up on the other side, I'm going to start with these three here and then go to those last two, and we'll figure something out for the ground in a moment. So let's start. Now this is kind of interesting. So where this is kind of a low point, and as I'm filing and trying poorly, I will add, to metal finish it, I'm actually coming across like a bronze, kind of like what you would use to lead something. So obviously somebody with much better skill than me has been here trying to fix this A-pillar once before. Or you know what? That's what that is. Right here is where the A-pillar and the roof line meet. And I bet you that's the factory seam where they flushed it. But yeah, it's like a bronze. Like somebody leaded that. All right, this side is pretty much done. I think I'm gonna hit this spot here because I can see a couple cold welds and might zap it, flush it up again. But then we still have 2 more holes and then what I'm using for a ground. So let me clean this up a little bit and we'll see how it turned out. All right, that's about as good as I'm gonna get these. Let me go for those now. All right, I'm gonna call that good enough. Let me clean this up. We'll put some paint on it so that it doesn't instantly rust. And then we'll move on to the next part. Most of a good paint job is good prep work. Now, I don't have any of the stuff to do good prep work at the moment, but I am going to at least make an attempt. Mainly want to clean off any oils, anything that may be there, so that we can get a nice clean surface. Normally you want to use like mineral spirits or a paint degreaser, or a chair that's not going to fly backwards on you. Let me go get the other side. You know, there's a lot of filings that I just created. I want to pick those up. Now that we're masked off, I'm gonna take some rubbing alcohol. I'm gonna clean it again because greasy arms touch stuff. I wanna make sure that we have the best surface we can. This is not going to be perfect, but we want it to be as good as we can get it. Another thing that works really well is kerosene. I've used that before as a cleaning agent, but you basically want to get all of the oils, dirt, grime off that you can, and also double check all your masking. Now let's go start painting. When you start painting, you're going to go from the middle back. You want to try to keep it same distance and even coats. All right, I sprayed a quick test spray on my sheeting here and trying to find a good distance. And you want to overlap your spray. Well, now that I've rattle canned the roof, there's thunders. So let's see what happens with that. In any case, this is going to take a year and a half to dry because it's like 300% humidity. But let's move on to the next task. Okay, we now know that this will fit the truck and we don't need to make any modifications to it. One problem, it's white and that's a black truck. So we need to paint it. Now this whole entire thing is covered in a white chalky powder. And to any good paint job, it's all about preparation. So I'm going to use some rubbing alcohol and a clean towel, and I'm going to wipe down the underside of this. We're going to paint it and let that paint dry, and then we're going to flip it over and paint the actual visible part of it. So let's get to that now. Give it a healthy dose of rubbing alcohol. Okay, now that we got our paint mixed up and everything's clean, we will start painting it. Now you want to keep moving. Don't want to stop because then you'll create a puddle or a run. And you want to overlap your passes so you get a even coat. So I'll just start going. Okay, now while that's drying, we'll move on to the next thing, which is going to be the dually fender. Got a little bit of work to do and a little bit of figuring out on that one. So let's get started on it. Rain, rain, go away. Come back in 2 days. Well, now that the rain has stopped, we can get back to what we were doing. So the problem we have here is that these 3 locations, actually the ones down the side are just as bad, but these locations here have rotted away and this is pulling away. When you're driving, air is getting underneath this, and if you look in the rearview mirror, you can actually see this pulling off. So what I want to do is, it's just these 3 holes here, and unfortunately those 3 holes are where the mounting location is. What I want to do is I want to build a bar and then attach those 3 through there so that we can clamp it and hold it up against the bed again. That's going to involve getting these to break free, which I'm going to try to do from underneath. Now there is a cover, a panel underneath here that you remove and you can gain access to in between the inner and outer walls of the truck bed. So let's go and see if we can pull that apart. Okay. There's not much of that holding anything anywhere. So now we have access to that. So I'm having trouble getting these to come off. I'm going to try a pipe wrench. I'll be able to slide it over and then get a better grip on everything. Hopefully I can set that down there. Hopefully I can get this to come out. Boy, I don't know. These are pretty rusted. What was that thud? Boy, that is not coming off. What can we do in place of that? Because I think my original plan is going to require that nut to come off. Yeah. See, what I wanted to do was take this bar, cut it there, and put 3 holes in it, slide this on, and then run the nut on the other side. But if I can't get the nut to come out, there's not a whole lot I can do. Well, at this point, we're pretty much on plan L. So what I want to do is I got a new nut. There's a length of stud still sticking out. So I'm going to stack washers around the existing nut that I cannot for the life of me get off. And then slide on an actual washer with a nut. So this stack of washers is going to stick around the existing nut. And this is going to clamp everything down, and hopefully these big fender washers are larger than the hole, the rust hole in the fender. So let's see if we can get one of these mounted up and see how well it goes. So far so good. Now we just need to get this nut started. Without knocking off all of the washers. Like that. Got the one on, and I probably needed to do another of the spacing washers. So I'm going to try to get another one on, and then we might take that one off and do it again. Okay. Yes, that worked. That worked real well. Actually, I might not have to mess with it. Well, no, I'm going to. I'm going to mess with that one. Let's try to do one more. Let's try to do this one here. And then we'll take this one off and add another washer to it. There. I mean, it's still a little wiggly, but that's not coming off. So now we got to put this piece of trim back in, and that can get scratched off the list. Well, I had to close the garage door because it's the time of day where the sun just beams in and I couldn't get lighting. Anyways, I touched this in a couple spots and it's still tacky. It is so humid from even before it rained, but especially after it rained, that this is going to take a while to dry. So I'm going to let it sit here overnight. We'll pick it up tomorrow by flipping it over, painting the top side of it, and installing it to the cab. So I'll see you tomorrow. Well, welcome back. It's the next day. Now, last night I couldn't leave well enough alone. I ended up flipping this part over and putting a couple coats of paint on it, let it dry it overnight. Then, just a few minutes ago, I put another coat on it. So this still needs to dry before we put it on the truck. I went on the roof of the truck and looked at it, and it's got some water spots and some debris from being rained on shortly after being painted. Disappointing, but the main purpose of what I did there was to kind of preserve the roof. There was very little paint left on it. It was starting to surface rust. I didn't even scuff it down or anything. I just cleaned it off and painted it because I just wanted to preserve it. One day in the future, we will take this truck and make it look nice, but today I just want to keep it until we get to that point. But while we're waiting for this to dry and the roof to cure and a couple other things to happen, there is something that I want to take care of. So let's go do that now. Now, when I'm driving down Route 66, I have a feeling there's going to be a couple groups of people. There's going to be the group of people that are going to go, wow, look at that old square body. And then there's going to be the group of people who are like, what the heck is wrong with that guy? Anyways, what I don't want is people to go, hey, let's pull him over because he has a light missing. So I got myself a light. And I figured if I'm going to replace one light with a new light, I might as well replace them all. That's probably why some of you noticed that I didn't mask off the cab lights. Those are going to be getting replaced as well. So let's start with that one, because not only is the lens missing, the bulb missing, the socket missing, but some of the wiring is missing as well. That's going to take some investigating. So now that I got some tools, let's first see if these two wires here have voltage going to them. That is going to be indicative of a bigger problem that we'll have to investigate, but let's start there. To do that, I'm going to need to strip the wires and then take my voltmeter. So let's take a look. All right, now that I got some bare wires, we can check for voltage. And we're good on voltage. Okay, I can turn the lights off to not kill the battery. We know we can just replace this as is. So let me go turn off the lights, and then we can start hooking this up. Strip these back a little bit more. Tug. All right, now I always use these that have the shrink tubing on them because you don't want water intrusion, and well, this will prevent that from happening. So okay, I might put a zip tie on that to kind of keep them out of trouble, but this one's hooked up. All right, works good, looks good, especially compared to the rest of the dually fender. But let's go do the other three, just so that A, we can check that they're working, and B, they all look the same. Now, you know, it's important to have a nice looking light when half the fender is missing. So let's make sure we do that. And there appears to be a missing light bulb. So we'll take this one and we'll put it in there. All right, let's turn that on, make sure that that kind of corroded socket works. And it kind of does. Hey, light bulbs get hot. I'm gonna go spray some contact cleaner on that so we can have a better chance. I would hate to have to replace that socket if I don't have to. So let me go get some contact cleaner. Now, when it comes to contact cleaner, I use deoxit. It works really, really well, but there's two types, and you gotta be careful on some of your electronics. There's one type that could potentially dissolve older electronics. The contacts and stuff don't react well with the cleaner, but newer electronics aren't as sensitive to it, so you gotta be careful which kind you get and make sure that it works well with the type of contact that you're working with. This is just a normal contact, so don't have to be too terribly concerned about it, but if you're working on like a old stereo or something, it's something to keep in mind. Oh, come here. It works really well. It's also really expensive. We'll keep this here just in case I need it for any of the others. There you go. That's all that it needed. Let me go turn off the power so I don't burn myself on that little bulb. Okay, with that, let's try to get this to go into here. Do I have any more wire? I do. Thank you. There we go. And this goes in this way. Can I have less wire? Nope. It goes in this way. Yeah, that fits a lot better. Now, when I bought this truck, the guy was kind enough to give me new, different, complete dually fenders. And those things are worth their weight in gold, so I took them. I just obviously haven't put them on, but this truck needs a lot of work, and as we've seen in recent videos, it needs a lot of work mechanically, and I've always been the kind of person to make something work well before looking nice. It's usually why none of my vehicles look nice, and probably why none of them work well. That's a whole different problem. But this looks better. Let's go do the other side. All right, let's get to this side. This one looks like it's gotten spray painted over. Rust is big with this truck. All right. Are you the red one? No. Are you the red one? Yes. Man. Oh, that light bulb is, let's see if we can clean it up. If we can't, we'll replace it. I need more fender. Yeah. A lot of dirt and grime on this light bulb. And with that, we got one more to do. All right. Let's get this last one changed out. All right. With that, we just need to wait for the visor to dry and we can install that. And that's it. We're done. Scratched the last item off the list. Well, this is dried and is cured enough that we can start putting that back on here. First step of that, pulling off all this masking. So let's get started with that. Well, I know you're wondering, well, how does it look? Looks like it was spray painted outside right before a storm. But the intention was to preserve it, not make it look nice. I mean, the rest of the truck is what it is. All right, now we are going to go grab that. This is really a two-person job, which is going to make it interesting. But we are going to go and we are going to set it in a place, kind of figure out where we're going to put the first screw, and then figure out where we're going to put the other screw, and then actually attach it. Once all that's done, we'll put new lights on. So let me go grab it. All right, so what I'm going to attempt to do, and this really should be done with two people, but yeah. Anyways, I'm going to try to center the center light into the cutout. I got a drill bit that is going to scratch the paint to let me know where to drill the hole. Now, sheet metal screws require a pilot hole to go into, and that pilot hole has to be a specific size, so pay attention to that. Anyways, make the scratch, and then we'll send it in, and hopefully that lines up somewhere nice over there. The other thing I'm going to do is, now that I drilled the hole, before I put in the screw, I'm going to put in a little dollop of caulking. This is a flexible caulking, so hopefully as things shake and rattle, it will stay adhered. But I'm going to put it around the hole, and we'll squish that in, and we'll shoot it down. All right, that's one down. Let's go do the other side. Okay, with those two there, I can now set up and drill the remaining holes. Then I'll take this off and silicone those up as well. All right, now that all the pilot holes are drilled, we can take these first two screws out and set the visor aside, silicone up all the holes, and then final secure it. Okay, and as a final touch, this kit came with little caps to go over these screws. And there you go. Cap visors installed. Went a little bit easier than I thought it would. But as I said before, I got new cab lights. Let's go install those. Boy, it just did not want to let go. Man, it's amazing how some new lenses and a cab visor can completely change the look of a vehicle. Anyways, that's it. That's the last item on the to-do list. Just before I had to leave, we got this all completed. I had my doubts at a couple moments, but we got it done. We did everything that was on the list, everything that we came across that needed to be addressed at that time. But the next time you see me, I will be heading off on that 4,500-mile trip to California and back. I got some stops. I'll bring you along. So until then, take care. Oh yeah, one last thing. No road trip is complete in an old vehicle without a CB. So let's put the antenna up. Now she's ready. So yeah, I wanted to show you this. This is a center console I 3D printed to bolt onto my dash. No modifications are needed to mount this. It mounts where the ashtray would go. It has my transmission, temp sensor, a tach, my fuel tank selector, as well as a myriad of power options. Tells me what my voltage is, 2 cell phone chargers, along with 2 power sockets to power whatever else I want. It has my CB and my brake controller down here at the bottom. So all this stuff, instead of having it in different gauges all over the place, one nice center console. I like this. I tried to get the color to match as best as I could to the interior. Maybe next time I'll just do it in black so it matches the bottom half of the dash.